Right now, on to the point. The SAVE Act, requiring proof of U.S. citizenship to register to vote, is headed for a showdown. Tonight, the local debate.
The current broken system suppresses votes.
There is no problem with our election security.
Offshore oil is back in the spotlight. Republican lawmakers react after President Trump calls for drilling to resume off the coast of California. Vaccine policy in limbo. A federal judge halts Secretary Kennedy's efforts to rewrite the childhood vaccine schedule. And America's farmers sounding the alarm. How disrupted shipping through the Strait of Hormuz could drive up fertilizer prices and put crops at risk. A lot of news to get to tonight, but first on our list, should voters have to prove they are U.S. citizens before casting a ballot? Thank you for joining us. I'm Alex Bell, and that is a bill that the U.S. Senate is expected to vote on this week after it passed through the House just last month. It's called the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility, or the SAVE Act. ABC's Becca Habegger joins us now in studio to discuss that, and also a similar effort right here in California.
Yeah, Alex, the federal SAVE Act would require someone to provide documentary proof of U.S. citizenship when registering to vote in federal elections. Now, debate is expected to be heated, but given the Senate's filibuster rules, the bill is not expected to pass. Still, there's an effort underway here in California that would also increase requirements around voter identification.
You have to be an American citizen to vote in federal and state elections.
You are required to be a citizen to vote on the governor, on all the ballot initiatives for Congress.
Jenny Farrell is executive director of the League of Women Voters of California. That's a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that advocates for voter education and access.
It's issues-based advocacy. We never support a specific candidate or party.
One issue the League is opposing this year is a California ballot initiative that would require an ID to vote. Currently, voter registration in the state requires someone to self-attest to their own citizenship. She says verification happens through each county's registrar of voters. Republican Assemblymember Carl DeMaio doesn't think that's adequate.
We should make it accessible and easy to vote, but with the greatest amount of integrity.
Last year, he authored a bill that would require someone to provide documentation proving U.S. citizenship when registering to vote, such as a passport or birth certificate. Then, when actually voting, they would need to show a government-issued ID to confirm they are the same person who registered. If voting by mail, voters would be required to write the last 4 digits of a government-issued ID on their ballot, which would then be verified by the registrar of voters. DeMaio's bill died in committee last year. So this year, he's leading the effort on a ballot initiative that would require an ID to vote, including offering free voter ID cards.
What I proposed is what I think Californians all agree on. I spent a lot of time listening to Democrat voters, Republican voters, and everyone in between. And they said consistently that they support voter ID. They also support making sure that our voter rolls are accurate, that we do citizenship verification, that we audit the voter rolls to make sure that people are being removed when they leave the state.
Farrell calls the ballot initiative unnecessary.
There is no problem with our election security.
Plus, she says voter ID laws can act as suppressive barriers to voting for people who are otherwise eligible to vote.
There is the unfortunate reality that there is a disproportionate impact likely when initiatives like this roll out on communities of color, low-income communities, people with disabilities, anyone who's gone through a name change, anyone who's experiencing housing insecurity, and all of those folks are more likely to not have a current valid ID.
Meanwhile, DeMaio's ballot initiative will likely appear on November's ballot. If voters approve it, the Independent Legislative Analyst's Office estimates implementing it would cost in the tens of millions to low hundreds of millions of dollars every year.
Now, back to the federal SAVE Act. Tomorrow, California Democratic Senator Alex Padilla is holding a joint news conference opposing it, calling it anti-voter legislation. Meanwhile, President Trump has said he will not sign anything into law until the SAVE Act passes, which would change voter ID requirements ahead of November's midterm elections. So we'll keep following this, Alex.
All right, Becca, thank you so much. Well, it is day 17 as the U.S.-Israeli war with Iran continues. President Trump is pressing allies to help get oil from the region as Americans continue to pay more for gas. Today, President Trump seemed to call out NATO allies who are reluctant to join the war in Iran.
For 40 years, we're protecting you, and you don't want to get involved in something that is very minor. We strongly encourage other nations whose economies depend on the strait far more than ours.
But many countries are pushing back, worried about dragging the world into a wider conflict.
We will not be drawn into the wider war.
We are ready to ensure safe passage through the Straits of Hormuz diplomatically. However, there will be no military participation.
Overseas strikes are escalating. A residential building used by the U.S. consul in Jerusalem was damaged by debris from an Iranian projectile over the weekend. Following a federal emergency order, offshore oil drilling off the coast of Santa Barbara has resumed for the first time since a major oil spill back in 2015. California Democrats say that they are concerned given the track record of that company. ABC 10 State Matters political reporter Jenny Huh joins us now with a breakdown.
The Sable Company has been a tremendous scofflaw, ignoring California's regulations that are designed to protect the environment.
It's like a bad nightmare that's playing over and over and over again. We've been resolute in the state of California. This is not something that we will tolerate under any circumstances.
California is fiercely pushing back against a federal emergency order to resume offshore oil drilling off the Santa Barbara coast. Secretary of Energy Chris Wright on Friday directed Sable Offshore Corporation to restore operations, quote, to address supply disruption risks caused by California policies that have left the region and U.S. military forces dependent on foreign oil.
Everybody's whining in the world about, oh, well, Iran or a conflict. We predicted this 8 months ago. What if we have a conflict? We're importing 40% of our gas and diesel products. Shame on us.
This, I think, is a real reflection of the energy crisis and supply crisis we are at.
It's federal intervention some Republicans have been requesting, saying as California faces back-to-back refinery closures, in-state production will decline by 20%, leading to more reliance on foreign imports.
Not saying that we shouldn't put out clean air. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that they need to back off on their very aggressive moves.
While there's agreement prices at the pump need to be lower in the state, the disagreement lies in how to do it. Some argue the current transition plan, zero emissions by 2045, is too ambitious.
In the meantime, we need to transition, which means in-state production, and in-state production means energy independence for California.
Others say we need to transition more quickly to clean energy as to not be dependent on foreign oil.
We need to stay the course and protect consumers and make the transition as fast as possible.
The ongoing legal tug-of-war between Sable and California makes Trump's intervention more controversial.
We know that if we have more drilling, we're going to have more spills, and spills lead to a loss of tourism and a loss to local economic activity.
Sable Santa Barbara facilities, which began production again Saturday, have been closed since a 2015 pipeline rupture that spilled more than 140,000 gallons of crude oil. Since then, Sable unsuccessfully has been pushing to resume operations. Governor Newsom has already threatened legal action with the new federal mandate.
Safer domestic energy production here, both on the clean energy side and on the oil side, as opposed to dangerous offshore oil drilling.
The debate also lies in federal versus state authority. While the oil platforms are in federal waters, onshore facilities like the pipelines are under state jurisdiction. All right, the U.S. Supreme Court today agreed to hear arguments over the Trump administration's push to end legal protections for people fleeing war and natural disasters. This includes people from Haiti and also from Syria. This comes after the Justice Department appealed a lower court ruling that delayed the end of protections allowing such people to live and work in the U.S. The conservative majority court has previously allowed immigration authorities to end legal protections for 600,000 people from Venezuela, exposing them to potential deportation. A federal judge blocked some of the efforts by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy, to reshape U.S. vaccine policy. In a ruling today, the judge said that the CDC's decision in January to overhaul the U.S. childhood vaccine schedule did not follow the proper legal channels. The judge also ruled that Kennedy's decision last June to fire all 17 members of the CDC's Vaccine Advisory Committee and replace them with his handpicked members was in violation of federal law. Still ahead on To The Point, 2 school districts and hundreds of teachers continue to strike. An update on those negotiations that we have been following very closely. And then a global conflict with local consequences, how disrupted shipping in the Strait of Hormuz could drive up fertilizer costs and impact food prices.
We've got the warmest temperatures of the year by far on the way this week. Temperatures 20 to 25 degrees above normal. We'll talk about that coming up after the break.
But first, another headlines tonight. Cuba is reporting an island-wide blackout impacting 11 million people. The Ministry of Energy calls it a complete disconnection of the country's electrical system and says it is investigating. On Friday, Cuba's president warned that the island had not received oil shipments in more than 3 months, and it was operating on solar power and other energy sources. Actor Sean Penn was notably absent from last night's Academy Award because he was meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky. In his post, Zelensky called Penn a true friend of Ukraine. Penn won his third Oscar last night for Best Supporting Actor for his role in one battle after another.
I couldn't see because my glasses had all filled with ice and snow.
And a massive storm system is sweeping across parts of the country. The Midwest and Great Lakes were slammed with snow over the weekend. Powerful winds whipped the snow up to create dangerous whiteout conditions, and in the east, millions of people are facing severe thunderstorm and tornado risk. Well, unfortunately, you might have to start running your AC again. Let's get things over to meteorologist Brendan Minchef. Hottest day of the year, and it's just going to stick around, right?
Yeah, hottest day of the year so far. No going back this week. We are full steam ahead. 84, the high in Sacramento today, 83 Stockton, 84 Modesto, 77 Placerville, 65 in Tahoe. Temperatures across Northern California at all elevations. We're running about 15 degrees warmer than normal for the time of year. Plus 17 Sacramento, plus 17 in Tahoe. And again, that 84 in Sacramento, not only hottest day of the year, but broke the daily high temperature record at 83. 80 in Elk Grove, 81 in Stockton, 80 in Modesto right now, 70 in Truckee, 59 in Tahoe. Looking towards downtown Sacramento, still about 84 degrees, plus 5 compared to this time yesterday. Temperatures are going to drop. It's going to be relatively slow, though, and it is not necessarily going to cool off as much as it should. The normal low temperature for tomorrow is 45 degrees. Where are we going to be at? Those mid-50s. I've got 54 in Sacramento, 55 in Stockton, 55 Modesto, 62 Jackson and Placerville, 35 in Truckee, and 33 in Tahoe. So about 10 degrees warmer than normal to start off Tuesday morning. Tuesday afternoon, though, going to be close to 20 degrees above normal. 88 in Sacramento, 89 in Stockton, 89 in Modesto, 85 in Angels Camp, 84 in Auburn, low to middle 70s in the high country. Very hot temperatures, again, about 20 degrees above usual. But then you're going to look down towards Southern California. Bakersfield at 93 tomorrow, 93 in Barstow, 93 in LA. That's at the airport along the coast. When you go in towards downtown Los Angeles, you're talking about temperatures in the upper 90s, close to 100 degrees, 90 in San Diego and 100 in Imperial. Record high temperatures as high pressure sits overhead this week, and the peak of the heat is likely going to be Thursday and Friday. Temperatures by Thursday, 24 degrees above average. That means we're going to be in those low 90s. If we were 24 degrees above average in the middle of July, we'd be at 117 degrees. That just goes to show you how much of a gap that plus 24 is. We should be about 67. We're going to be in those low 90s. Again, if you had that in the summertime, you'd be above 115. And climate change playing a big role here, especially for those morning temperatures. An exceptional heat event driven by climate change. That level 5 out of 5 on the Climate Shift Index. Looking at those high temperatures again, upper 80s and low 90s, smashing all kinds of records, especially in the afternoon. Alex.
All right, Brendan, buckling in. All right, right after the break, coming up, hundreds of teachers across 2 local school districts continue their strikes, the latest from the picket lines. And California sues the Trump administration again. The accusations against the Department of Housing and Urban Development over fair housing. From 2 Sacramento area school districts continued their strikes today. Educators in Twin Rivers continued their historic first strike for an 8th day. Educators say that they are fighting for fully funded classrooms to end what they call a staffing crisis. Today, they held a rally at Woodlake Elementary School looking to gain support from parents.
Just really trying to advocate for smaller class sizes, more funding to the classrooms, more funding for student supports. To really promote, child learning and make sure all the kids have an equal chance of success.
Teachers recently ended a bargaining session over healthcare costs. They are asking for fully covered family health care. The district's latest proposal includes full family health care coverage for the current school year and the next. Hundreds of people, including students and supporters, marched through Natomas this morning in solidarity with teachers as the strike enters its 5th day. Students organized a nearly 2-mile march beginning at Natomas High School, crossing over Interstate 80 and ending at the Natomas Unified School District office. Both sides remain divided over key contract issues, particularly healthcare coverage. Healthcare being a big issue in these strikes. All right, to your price points now. The Iran war's disruption of shipping in the Strait of Hormuz is raising some big concerns for American farmers. The closure of the strait has led to surging prices and fears over supply, just as many farmers are beginning their spring planting season. Michael Yoshida breaks it down for us, including what this all could mean for our food prices, too.
If we miss that window, we could have catastrophic crop failure.
Alarm bells sounding over disrupted shipping through the Strait of Hormuz and the potential impact to American farmers.
Worst case scenario, a grower may not be able to get a crop in the ground. And of course, that's going to lead to food security conversations.
The waterway is critical for transporting supplies needed to make fertilizers, as well as the finished products, including about half the world's supply of urea, a nitrogen fertilizer for crops like corn. Also, about a third of global exports of ammonia, key for most nitrogen fertilizers, and sulfur, another vital nutrient for crops. Shipments that have essentially stopped since the war.
With the closure of that strait, it's lifted prices here in the United States by several $100s per ton. So that immediately squeezes farmers' bottom line.
I've not seen this level of disruption before. Urea prices are up 50% since that Friday before.
According to the Fertilizer Institute, the U.S. imports about 35% of its fertilizer needs every year, with supplies often arriving just in time for use.
I'm told we still need to import about 25% of our need for March, April, May application.
Now, spiked costs and already low crop prices could lead to tough decisions.
We'll have to adapt either to plant a different crop that uses less fertilizer or potentially reduce the amount of fertilizer that they use, which could have an impact on crop yields and ultimately prices.
In Washington, Michael Yoshida.
Attorney General Rob Bonta today announced another lawsuit against the Trump administration. This one is over the rollback of fair housing protections. Bonta and 15 other attorneys general are suing the Department of Housing and Urban Development over recent housing guidance it issued. That includes a number of conditions local agencies must meet to qualify for the Fair Housing Assistance Program, including an immigration condition and gender ideology condition. The lawsuit claims the guidance significantly weakens fair protections and also makes it harder to hold landlords accountable for discrimination. Now, Bonta says in a statement, quote, all levels of government, local, state, and federal should be laser focused not only on building more housing, but also ensuring that everyone can access a home free from discrimination. Right after the break, we are taking a look at what we're working on for tomorrow. It's a story you don't want to miss. ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen has an update on an ADU home builder now shutting down. A Sacramento-based ADU builder is shutting down after the state suspended its license. Nona ADU and Construction, or better known as Nona Homes, now has dozens of complaints submitted to the contractor's state license board. ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen has been looking into this for the past year and is here to share one Woodland family's experience with this company.
Alex, this family tells me they paid nearly $194,000 to Nona Homes to build them an ADU in their backyard. But the family says the company never delivered on its promise to complete the project. Corey and Christy Johnson hired Nona Homes in 2024 to build the ADU for their parents. The couple says they paid invoice after invoice and saw little to no work being done on their property. Even though they were on time with their payments, they said they started to get liens put on their home for failure to pay for materials. When the couple tried to get answers from the company's president and CEO, they said they were still left with more questions on when their project would be finished.
This is their life savings. This is their home, the money that they had built 40 years ago and sold to build an ADU to spend the rest of their days on. And sorry, Grammy. And it's horrible because it has now been taken. It's wrong.
Now, the contractor state's license board says it has suspended the company's license and forwarded complaints to the Attorney General's office. The company's president, Ray Guano, says the CEO Dave Simmons both deny having any involvement in financial matters for the company. Now, this company didn't only impact homeowners, but also subcontractors are missing paychecks for work they've done. Hear from two of them tomorrow on To The Point, and the new businesses Ray and Dave are now involved with. Alex.
All right, Jeannie, thank you. It's definitely a story you don't want to miss. Our team has been following this very, very closely. But as always, thank you so much for watching, for always inviting us into your home. And if you truly have something that you think we should be looking into, you can always reach out to the team. You can send us an email at tothepoint@abc10.com. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow.